right here in Newport News.
It is. It's a faith-based
That was the
program
one part of my life that I always preserved, because I thought that's the me that I want the world to see.
Get in touch with me and I'll get you in touch.
I can be a mess at home alone, but when I'm out there in front of other people, I'm going to be as professional as I can possibly be.
Well, you know, later on in the show,
I could go hours and hours on live television doing my job at a very high level and then go home and collapse.
TV anchor Les Smith was determined not to let his co-workers know he lived a private nightmare. He'd go home after a long day of TV reporting and let booze numb the pain. No one knew the weight of Les's problem, not even Les.
I think about to the time I was a teenager, and I would sit in my room and listen to sad songs by myself. And I didn't understand at the time that that was really the beginning of a lifelong battle with depression.
In college, Les became an alcoholic. He thought it was the only way he could exist.
I did it just to mask the anxiety I had and the loneliness I had, the depression I had.
After college, Les began reporting for Wavy TV in Hampton Roads, Virginia. He pushed himself to get ahead and was very careful about his professional image. But his private life was a mess, and he didn't want anyone in it.
I would start a relationship with a woman, and it would last a period of time where they tried to get too close to me, and I would use alcohol and isolation to push them away. And if somebody tried to get too close to me, I'd end the relationship. So I went through this long pattern over the years of just pushing people away when they got too close to me.
When the pain of depression became too much for Les, he'd call in sick. He thought he could handle it himself.
I don't need help from anybody, and particularly when I continued to be successful at work, I'm like, look, I can go and do my job. Nobody needs to worry about me what I do when I go home.
Les hid his depression for 22 years at Wavy TV. But in 2007, he could no longer keep up the front. So one day, he disappeared.
I was just done. I was just done. I knew I couldn't go, and I couldn't put on the happy face. I couldn't be the professional Les. I had to stay there on that couch and be the real unhappy Les.
Les broke his contract and walked off the job. A year later, he turned up, worked briefly for a station across town, WTKR, and then left again. He eventually landed a job in New York City, where he drank even more.
The real end came in 2010. And I was in New York City, and I really was trying to drink myself to death. I was so depressed I couldn't eat, I couldn't keep food down. I just did not want to go on anymore. My dad had to come up from Texas to help me. And he got there and right away called an ambulance. And they took me to the hospital. And they had to detox me and give me medicine so I wouldn't go into a seizure. And I still wanted to die. I asked God to let me die.
But Les usually didn't talk to God. And the idea of God talking back, well, he didn't even consider that until...
And I'll never forget, it was the middle of the night. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was a very dimly lit hospital room, and I'm asking God to let me die, and I hear a voice in my spirit that says, no, I want you to live. And that was the moment I really realized, okay, I have to make a choice. Do I live, and how do I live?
In that hospital room, Les learned something about God.
I always believed in God. But I didn't understand that God was somebody who was in me and a part of me all the time. I thought God was somebody that you went to church and worshiped on Sunday. And that was the end of the relationship. And then during the week you went and did your thing and you came back on Sunday. That's the part I missed. And that's the part that my brokenness eventually led me to.
Les realized the pain he was trying to numb was really a hole he was trying to fill.
And it wasn't until after I came to Christ that I realized that's a God-shaped hole. And the only thing that fills that hole is my relationship with Jesus Christ. Nothing else can fill it.
After being released from the hospital, Les checked into Youth Challenge in Newport News, Virginia.
At that point where every day We got a Christian education, and every day I deepened my understanding of my relationship with Jesus Christ. And it was only through that experience, doing it every day and really letting Him come in and do the work that needed to be done in me, that I finally changed, that I finally turned that corner as a person.
Recently, Les guest anchored with associate and friend Barbara Sierra at WTKR-TV in Norfolk, Virginia. He's also a real estate agent. He finds that people recognize him wherever he goes, and they want to tell him their stories.
I've learned as I've begun to give my testimony, people have shared with me their own struggles. And I can tell you, I'm not the only person who ever sat on a couch watching the 700 Club with a bottle of vodka in my hand praying with Pat. There are a bunch of us out there. It just took us a long time to get to the right place. I had gone the wrong direction for a long, long time. I'm not where I need to be, but I'm sure not where I used to be. And for the first time, I'm going in the right direction. What fills for me is the grace and forgiveness of Jesus Christ and a hope and a future. That's all that works for me.